Welcome all to the all hands meeting of the Open Voice Network. My name is Michael Novak, and I'll be your moderator today as we walk through all the activities that are going on in the Open Voice Network. As you can see, we have quite a busy agenda today. We've got some great speakers, both some that you know and some special guests to talk about all the events and all the activities that have been going on in the Open Voice Network. Next slide, please. And as is true with all of the Open Voice Network calls, please keep in mind that the first half of this call will be recorded and stored in our shared drive. And at the bottom of the hour, we will turn the recording off to have an open session for question and answers, but keeping in mind that we will end and start on time. Also, as a member of the Linux Foundation, keep in mind that this meeting will be conducted in accordance with the antitrust guidelines of the Linux Foundation. For the 2023 second quarter call we are on today, we'll be talking about several very exciting initiatives. The first is our TrustMark Initiative. Then we'll be talking about our interoperability with our good friends over at Bürokratt. And then we'll have a presentation from our executive director, Mr. Jon Stine, and again, followed by community question and answers at the bottom of the hour. So if you do have any questions, please make sure to add them to the chat, and we will keep track of those, and then we will address them at the bottom of the hour. As part of the Open Voice Network, keep in mind our mission is to make worthy of user trust, and our guiding values are trust, human choice, inclusivity, and openness. And reminders, we ask that everyone stay muted during this session. But if you do have questions, of course, you may post them in the chat and we will get to them at the end of the session. So first up, we have Oita Coleman, who's a senior advisor here at the Open Voice Network, taking charge of the TrustMark Initiative. And she'll be having a conversation with one of our advisory board members, Mr. Doug Rogers. So Oita, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael.
Hi there, Oita. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, it's great to have you. First, I would like to start by thanking the Open Voice Network community for your support of the TrustMark Initiative. We launched the initiative in March, and since then, you have sent notes of support, endorsements through the website, volunteered to assist with the work, and you challenged our thinking. We are looking forward to launching our first two deliverables, an introductory training course on the ethical principles for conversational AI offered through the Linux Foundation and edX platform, and the self-assessment tool to allow organizations to gauge their maturity towards the TrustMark ethical principles. The anticipated launch date for both of these is August the 2nd, so stay tuned for more details. Joining me, I really am excited to have this discussion with Doug Rogers, who is Chief Information Security Officer of Wegmans Food Markets. Doug also serves on the Open Voice Network Steering Committee and is an active participant in the Privacy and Security Work Group. And I'm happy to have him serve as the chair of the advisory board of the TrustMark Initiative. Doug, thank you for taking the time to share your insights on the importance of our work to Wegmans, to you, and to society at large. Could you tell us about your role as the Information Security and Chief Information Security Officer at Wegmans?
Sure thing. And again, thank you for inviting me to help participate in today's meeting. I really appreciate it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the folks that are on the call. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I've actually been an employee at Wegmans for 41 years. I spent 3 decades in infrastructure and operations, and the last 5 years in information security. So in operations, we did some with security, but the last 5 years, I've really had my eyes open to what cybersecurity really is all about and the importance of data privacy, data security. I basically manage a team of cybersecurity professionals, and our mission really boils down to protecting the Wegmans brand with all of its digital assets. The biggest challenge that we face, or that I face in my role in information security, is converting the very, very technical vulnerabilities that exist in our computer systems into real risk that the business can understand, and then convince them that it's just as important to invest in making security improvements as it is in creating new functionality for our customers.
Yeah, one of the things that that we talk about often is, especially in privacy and security work group, and this will be equally important with the TrustMark Initiative, is balancing the needs of customers, employees, your suppliers, and regulators. So what do you see as a relationship between privacy and security and ethics?
Yeah, great question. The mission comes first, and that is to protect the brand. You do that, and you have to build trust with your customers. We strive to take a risk-based approach while being cost-effective. Every company has those challenges with costs and the bottom line. We listen and take care of our employees first. And, happy employees want to take care of your customers. So happy employees will result in happy customers from our perspective. That's how we feel. Employees and customers will not feel safe or secure without trust. And by building trust, Wegmans focuses on our key core values of respect, caring, and high standards. And by doing that, and having the right investments in the right place, we've been able to build a lot of trust with the Wegmans brand over the years. Proud to say it.
All right. So you've been involved in the Open Voice Network for almost 3 years now, and we are fortunate that actually Wegmans was one of the first organizations to sign on as a sponsor of the organization. What motivated you to join this initiative, and what are your goals and the contributions since you've been involved?
Sure. I was actually asked to participate on the privacy and security work group from one of the internal folks here at Wegmans that was involved in that first initial meeting, or that first initial launch of OVON. And as Oita said, being a member of the steering committee and the chair of the TrustMark Initiative, I was really quickly struck by what the goal of the Open Voice Network was. Voice worthy of user trust. And that, it really hit home for me that first meeting that I started to attend. I have a passion for data privacy here at work and at home, so I guess it's a good thing that I'm in information security. But I was really excited on being invited to be on the ground floor of building these set of standards that someday, my hope, will put a requirement on manufacturers to put customer data and customer privacy first and foremost, or they risk being obsolete. We're not there today, but I'm really hoping that the work that we're doing and continue to do will get to that point where the customer's privacy comes first.
Yeah, so you mentioned not just your concerns relative to you personally, the organization Wegmans, But you mentioned your family. So from that perspective of your family, how do you view the current state of privacy and security at large? And so when we talked, you mentioned in particular, you have teenagers.
Yeah.
So can you share some of your concerns relative to the current state?
Yeah, no problem. It's funny that we talked about this even before, and I've had a number of conversations with my kids as they've grown up to become teenagers and young adults. And to me, when I was their age, when I was a youngster, I could trust what I saw, for the most part, in newspapers. What I heard on the evening news, you could absolutely trust. It was true information that came out. And I think over the past, 2 decades, that's kind of gone away. Kids need to be really cautious of what they hear and what they see. And I'm trying to teach my kids, especially as we came out of the pandemic for a couple of years. There is so much disinformation out there that is just blatant disinformation. And, they call deep fakes the not so deep fakes. Makes it really hard for youth today to know what to trust. And for me personally, we try to get our kids to, see what you see, but fact check. Try to find other ways to verify what you're hearing or what you're saying is really truthful before you actually pass it along to somebody else as if it is a fact. The other thing is really oversharing. Today, people overshare their personal information in very insecure ways. I'm amazed to see what I've seen in the last 5 years here within Wegmans. And that's another lesson that we really try and teach them, is to not be so not be in such a hurry to give your personal information. Be careful of it.
So with that, if you look at the past, as you say, past 5 years, and you've noticed the change, in terms of identity theft, deep fakes, oversharing, disinformation, and privacy concerns. So looking forward, as you see things like large language models and generative AI, how do they influence your views for the future, and what protections are needed?
I think it makes it harder. These new tools that come out, like large language models and AI in general, make it real easy to collect information, get information back. You really have to be careful of what you provide, what you put into these large language models. I'm very concerned that folks want to take advantage of the very quick and easy way to use AI and get information back. I'm concerned with sensitive data going in, Wegmans sensitive data being provided into it. And once you put it out there in the internet, it's out there forever. You can't pull it back. Once you put it in, you can't get it back. So tools are awesome. I love the new tools. I just wish that people would spend a little bit more time getting to understand exactly what you're doing before you actually jump into the deep end, so to speak, with both feet. And again, I try to teach my children the same thing at home. Be cautious of what you're providing, who you're providing it for. And the very first question you should ask is why? Why do you need that information? Do you really need that information in order for me to interact with this transaction, or whatever the case may be? So yeah, new technology makes our job more difficult, without a doubt.
Final question. In your role as the chair of the advisory board of the TrustMark Initiative, how do you envision your role and contributions to advance the privacy, security, and ethical practices within your sphere of influence?
Yeah, good question. I see it as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to continue to drive the TrustMark Initiative, to drive the principles of privacy, and to challenge folks to understand to learn more about it. You know, one of the first things that we're going after is a Linux Foundation course, introductory training course. These classes can be taken by us as members of OVON. I plan on bringing it back to the Wegmans environment and having my peers try and take those courses to help understand. And again, it's something that you can do with your family. So it's not just me here at work. It's letting my family see ways that they can be educated in order to keep their stuff just as private as we do in the corporate environment. To me, it's all about education, 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 education. Being part of OVON, it also allows me to keep driving those privacy standards as part of the privacy and security work group. And then hopefully also as the TrustMark Initiative grows. I love the trajectory that we're on, and I can't wait to continue to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug, for your time and for your valuable insights. And the one thing that you did mention about education, that is one of the primary roles of the Open Voice Network. Our role, especially as it relates to TrustMark Initiative, is education, and the other piece of that is advocacy. Both of those things we see as the primary goal is to educate and to advocate for best practices. So for those of you who are on the call today, as call to action, find out more about the TrustMark Initiative at the Open Voice Network website, openvoicenetwork.org. We ask that you show your support by endorsing the ethical principles for conversational AI. You can endorse as an individual as well as an organization. And as we mentioned at the top, we will be delivering the self-assessment tool. And so over the next couple of weeks, we'll be test driving it. And if you are interested in being an early adopter and providing feedback, please raise your hand, send me an email, a note, and we'll be glad to have you provide your feedback. And again, stay tuned for more details on the launch of the training course and the self-assessment tool. So thank you all for your time. Again, Doug, thank you. And Michael, back to you.
Good help.
Yes, thank you, Doug and Oita. That was great to hear. I'm excited as well as we move forward during these current times. It's very valuable, I think, very timely. And speaking about being timely, our next section will be talking about interoperability. Again, this is one of those issues that's at the cutting edge. Many companies and people haven't thought about how do we get systems to work together. So to help us discuss that, we have Dr. Debbie Dahl, who's a member of our advisory network. Excuse me. And then we have two special guests from the Estonia Information Systems Authority, Mr. Kaupo Laagriküll and Rainer Türner. So welcome.
Very excited to have Rainer and Kaupo here from the government of Estonia. They've been working with us for the last month or a couple of months to apply OVON standards, OVON interoperability standards to Estonian government services. So this is very exciting to see how this can actually, our standards can actually go and solve real problems in real systems. So I'm very happy that they're both able to be here today. I'd like to start by asking Kaupo and Rainer to briefly introduce themselves, and then I'll be asking them to comment about our joint work from the Estonian perspective. So Kaupo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good evening from Estonia, and I am Kaupo Laagriküll. I am the head of machine learning and natural language processing team here in Estonia, and we with Rainer work in Information System Authority. We are the part of the agency that works with our vision to have Estonians' own virtual assistant to help our citizens to access information and services. So, Rainer.
Thank you. Hello from me as well. I'm Rainer Türner. I'm the architect of Bürokratt. I've been working in the field of software development for 22 years now. For the past 5 years, I've worked in the public sector, at first as the architect of Estonian state portal, and for the past 2.5 years for Bürokratt. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's start with a few questions about your work. Kaupo, can you tell us a little bit about Estonia's vision for digital services and the importance of interoperability?
Yes, thank you. And in short, Bürokratt is a vision of how digital public services should be working in age of artificial intelligence. So basically, this is a vision how government services and information should be available for our and other citizens that the Estonian government provides. This is by voice and text. This means not only Estonian language, but other languages as well. This means that most common devices and channels should be accessible to have access to Bürokratt. This means that our services information needs to be proactive, not just to wait our citizens' interaction. And one of those principles for us is to be open sourced and free so this can be community-driven development in the future. And in interoperability side, Bürokratt as a whole is a system of agents, basically, that different agencies use. There's no one central Bürokratt there. Every agency will have their own data. And for those agents need to interoperable with each other, and hopefully in the future, other sites or other systems, basically, or other country systems can work together seamlessly. And for that, we need to have standardized protocol, basically, and this allows us to interoperable with the other conversation agents.
Well, thank you, Kaupo. Rainer, I wanted to ask you if you could go into a little bit more detail about the Bürokratt system. It's seems like a very sophisticated and modern approach to government digital services.
Yeah, sure. First, I will extend a lot what Kaupo just said, but I would like to start with the fact that everything that we do is public. We have everything available publicly in GitHub. Also, our joint project with Open Voice Network. It means that we plan everything publicly. All the draft ideas are there publicly. We get our source code from developers straight to public GitHub repositories. We build our environments straight from this source code and so on. So everything is public and everything is very, very open. And about the Bürokratt, Bürokratt is a network of government virtual assistants, and it's meant to provide government e-services and do it in a way that the end client does not have to know or even care about who they ask their questions from. For instance, I could ask to lend a book from the National Library and what's the status of my driver's license update process, and also what's for dinner in my children's kindergarten tomorrow. And I can ask it all from, let's say, from a Ministry of Foreign Affairs who provides none of these services. And that's the idea of Bürokratt. You as an end client, as a citizen, you can ask anything at first when it's government e-services related, but you can ask it from any government entity. And in the background, what Bürokratt is all about is to make sure that these requests get properly served. And the end client only has to take a phone, talk to our national app, which will be published in August, I guess, or do it via chat or voice-based chat, and that's it.
Whenever I hear you talk about Bürokratt, I know, and we're all citizens of some country. I think, oh, if I could only do that when I'm trying to deal with my own government. So I hope that Estonian work is going to be an inspiration to other governments to try to work into that vision. Go ahead.
I think that Estonia, regarding what we are trying to do here with Bürokratt, Estonia has a massive head start, as I can't think of any government services which can't be, which don't have any service for it. So this way we have a massive head start, but we talk to many countries as well, and I can say for sure that this initiative has been noticed.
That's really good to hear. I guess my next question is for Kaupo, and I wanted you, if you could talk a little bit about the advantages you see in collaborating with the Open Voice Network. How is that useful for you?
Oh, yeah, great question. For us, this cooperation means that we can actually have a standardized protocols or standard in the future how those conversational agents communicate with each other. So this can actually be field tested with us. We need to have a standardized way to communicate with the different agents, not just inside Bürokratt, but outside Bürokratt as well. As let's say outer border services, that easy way is to, if you need, if you get the recipe from Apotheka in Estonia, I'm not sure how's the English word there, you can recipe basically for a drug. And you can actually go to Finland and get that drug from Finland. So there's e-services that can operate inside different nations, and they have different, basically different agents or different conversational agents, and this can be used to have cross-border services there. And some of this needs to have this to happen. We need to have standardized protocol for communication, and this is a great way to test it out. Great to have to cooperate with you and your team there. So hopefully this has a great practical test, and we can actually share it with the world, basically, that this protocol works. And you can actually use it.
Great, thank you. I think we're getting close to the end of our time, so let's wrap up with one more question for Rainer. If you wanted to say a few words about what are you looking forward to as the outcome of our collaboration?
Practical results, as Kaupo said as well, and really practical results. We have the technical means to change the data protocols when we communicate with different systems. We have our protocol for Bürokratt communication, and it is very easy for us to change these protocols when we make our requests somewhere else. And I'm pretty sure that Bürokratt will also adopt OVON standard in the end when we finish our project. And that's what I'm hoping for, to get practical results and to have a showcase of having working services with third-party participants who have nothing to do with OVON or Bürokratt, but it still works. That's what I'm hoping to get from it.
That sounds really exciting, and of course from the OVON side, we're really excited that an organization is going to take our standards and really put them to work at scale, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot as our collaboration moves forward. Thank you both. I have one more thing to say, which is hopefully some of you who've been listening are inspired to get involved with the Open Voice Network and from my perspective, the Interoperability Initiative. So we'd love to have your help. We have lots of ideas for things that our new volunteers might be interested in doing. And we have a list on the OVON website, which is just some ideas that we've thought of. And there might be even more interesting ideas that some of you have thought of. So our ideas are including ranging from developing software, part of the OVON open source software suite, and even just reviewing and commenting on our documents as they're published. It's really valuable for us. So we can find something for everyone to do depending on what they're interested in and their availability. So I hope you'll take a look at the volunteer opportunities on our website and get back to us. Michael?
Well, thank you, Deborah, and thank you to our esteemed guest from Estonia. Again, I can't emphasize it enough. This is big to have that interoperability with generative AI devices and applications coming out. This is exciting. And the next exciting thing you'll want to hear about is a presentation from our executive director, Mr. Jon Stine.
Michael, thank you. And thank you all for being here. And a special thanks to Oita and Doug, to Debbie, Kaupo, and Rainer. Thank you for your time. And thank you for the investment here. Nathan, let's go to the next slide, if you would, please. And again, a reminder from Michael, post your questions in chat. Some announcements, some comments. First of all, we have just celebrated our 3rd birthday for the Open Voice Network, and that was official early this month. And I think it's noteworthy that, like many organizations, we've gone from the forming and the storming and a bit of the norming, our meetings start and end on time, to the performing. And if Nathan, the next slide, please. The state of the Open Voice Network as of June 2023, 7 financially supporting enterprises, 47 companies listed as friends, and that's an opportunity for you, more than 150 monthly active participants, and those participants, 16 nations, 15 time zones. We have individuals dialing in the middle of their night to participate in and work with the Open Voice Network. It's exciting. The research and development teams, the publications, the podcasts, meetings like this, and 4 big initiatives, interoperability and the TrustMark 1 and 2, but also some substantial work underway right now in synthetic voice. And of course, with Harry Pappas, the health, wellness, and life sciences community, again, meeting early next month, and a great series being put together, Dr. Chris Landon, our next speaker. Next slide, please. Some additional thank yous and 2 specific call outs. To those of you in the Ethical Use Task Force, and you see your names here, and there may be other names, thank you for what you've done to take and identify key principles, and now to translate those principles into educational courses, as Doug and Oita spoke of, as well as the self-assessment tool. An enormous lift, difficult work, and yet tremendous accomplishment. So Emily, Valeria, Janice, Michael, JT, Laura, Emily, Leslie, Audrey, Melanie, Sarah, Melissa, and others, thank you. Thank you for the great work. Thank you for the leadership. And of course, a special shout out to Oita for keeping all this going. It's just exciting, just tremendous. Another shout out. Next slide, please. I should mention, regarding the TrustMark Initiative, there is one thing that's missing, or at least perhaps for many of you. Oita mentioned, and Nathan, go ahead and click the animation. Oita mentioned the endorsement of the TrustMark Initiative. I'd ask you to do that and do that today. You can endorse the TrustMark principles: inclusivity, sustainability, accessibility, accountability, transparency, privacy, governance. You can endorse those as an individual. You can endorse those as a company. But you can endorse those. Raise your hand, go public, stand and say, these are important to me. I'm in favor of voice and conversational AI that is worthy of user trust. We need your endorsement. There's one thing missing from the TrustMark Initiative, and that's many of you. Please jump into the Open Voice Network website, the TrustMark Initiative, and please show your endorsement as an individual or as a leader of a company to your company. Nathan, let's go then to the next slide. Another shout out, and that is a tremendous leadership. Debbie, David, Jim, Emmett, and many of you on this call, Boris, Simon, Bruce, Kieran, I can go on. The individuals who have been driving and leading to the publication of the first interoperability specification. And as David and Emmett, Debbie and Jim would say, it's perhaps a modest start, but it's a great start. And it's the basis for the work right now between Estonia and the Open Voice Network. Thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for the commitment. Thank you for those many hours of conversation, writing code, testing it in your mind, and testing it there in your own sandboxes. It's so special, and we're very, very appreciative. So thank you. Next slide. Keep in mind that we are at the cusp of a lot of very important change. And people have said, well, what's the paradigm for the Open Voice Network? Where does the Open Voice Network fit in this new world? Where do you fit in this new world? How relevant are you in this new world? Well, we are, first and foremost, we're about voice and natural language. And certainly we know that voice will be a primary, not exclusive, but a primary interface to the digital world. And that for reasons of convenience, for reasons of efficiency, for inclusivity. As Dan Miller reminds us, it's about voice being integrated into workflows and bringing value in a variety of ways, of consumers choosing voice for its convenience and its efficiency. We also know, as the Ethical Use Task Force and the TrustMark Initiative so well lay out, this is an extraordinarily rich, and because of that, high-risk source of data. It's a biometric, it's a biomarker. You can infer all kinds of things about a human from the voice. And we, perhaps alone in the world, have taken on a responsibility of driving standards and lifting to the world the ethical principles to guide this work, because voice is normative increasingly, and voice will be a primary interface to the digital world. It's touching right now on operations. It's the core of interactive voice response. It's the core of the proprietary voice channels is being used in the World Wide Web, and Nathan clicked the slide, but it's also going to be a critical part of the conversational AI future. And indeed, voice will be the interface for prompts. That's happening. Interactive voice response will connect with domain-specific language models. The future of IVR and of customer service will be tied to generative AI. We see right now that proprietary voice channels from Amazon to Google Bard to Meta, etc., tied to general purpose large language models. And all of those are going to need, through voice, to connect to one another. No one will want to stop and re-engage. You'll want to jump from one to the other, for your dialogue to be delegated one to the other, for your history and context to be known one to the other. That's the voice. This is the world to which we're building. This is the world that needs voice and conversational AI worthy of user trust. Next slide, if you would, Nathan. And voice and all voice-enabled destinations in the digital world to be accessible and interoperable. Worthy of user trust, accessible, and interoperable. Next slide. Thank you. Thank you all on this call and those who will be listening to this on recordings. Thank you for being part of this very important journey. We, the Open Voice Network, are making a difference. Next slide. Both Oita and Debbie suggested and asked you to consider your participation in the Open Voice Network. And there's never a bad time, but certainly now is the time. Whether it's writing code defining requirements, doing the research as to the precedents that are out there that we can adopt or adapt, it's putting ethical principles into practice, use case development, supporting financially, working in health, wellness, and life sciences. Now is the time. And if you take a moment and hold your smartphone QR code reader up to this QR code, it'll take you right to our volunteer registry. Let us know of your interest. Let us know where you would like to participate. Let us know how you can help. Now is the time. Again, thank you. Have a great day. And Michael, I think it's now time to end the recording and to go for the open Q&A. Thank you, Michael.
Yes, thank you, Jon. Actually, real quick, Nathan, can you put up that last slide, if you wouldn't mind, before we go to the full screen? Because we do have a special slide, or a thank you slide, that we're proud of. Because as we'll note, this is not just a single organization in a single country, we are global. And that's why we depend on the world to help support this effort.